everyone, this is Sadie Heckman, Yew Dell's Garden and Arboretum Manager, and today we're going to talk about the wonderful world of plant curation. So right now we're in the glass house because it's super windy in the gardens, but we're going to talk about the importance of curation and how we do it here at Yew Dell. So number one, Yew Dell as a botanic garden, our main purpose for being here is to educate the community and the public and to also inspire our visitors to fall in love with plants. And by doing that, we need to make sure that you know what the plants are when you're wandering around the garden. So that's extremely important to us. And I've been working with our horticulture staff really hard the past couple of years, trying to get some of the curation figured out, installing a lot of signs in the gardens so that we can further educate you guys. But we get a lot of questions in the gardens about what the signs mean. So today we're in the glass house and I'm going to kind of give you a little behind the scenes of what the signs mean, but also kind of show you how it's made in the gardens, which is really, really cool. So for the first part, we have a variety of different signs in the gardens. We have temporary collection signs that we put on annuals and seasonal displays, and those are typically on white waterproof paper, so they're very, very different from our plant collections that are permanent displays. So in the glass house, you're going to see these smaller, I think these are 1.5 by 5 signs. And these are things that we use in the glass house, but also for more seasonal interest in the gardens. So you'll find things like daffodils that go dormant for a portion of the year that we have these signs on. So that's one difference. And then we also have larger display signage like this one here, and it's double the size. And we use this on plants that are always of interest in the gardens, so you can very easily determine which is which. So if you see this sign right next to this one, it's probably because this one is dormant, so you're not going to see it as often, and this is the main plant that you're seeing in the garden space. So these are two different formats that we use, and the really cool part is you can find so much good information just on a plant sign. So when you're out in the gardens or in the glass house, when you read the sign, there's a variety of information listed on here. Some of it is more detailed than others, depending on what information we could find about the plant. But first off, you have the common name. This name is usually regional, differs by country, state, location in Kentucky. It doesn't really matter. But a common name is something that people have just built up over time to identify a particular plant. So this guy here next to me is the jade plant, and that's usually what we call it. But like I said, that's regional, so it's not very reliable if you're traveling around talking about plants. So the most reliable name we have is the Latin binomial, and this one, for example, is Crassula ovata. So that is the plant's true name, and if you were to say that no matter where you go in the country or in the world, most people are going to know what you're talking about because that's kind of the standard language that we use for plants. You'll also find the family. We put that in common name terms, so this is the stonecrop family. So if you know other stonecrop relatives or you see another sign in the gardens that has the same family name, you know that they're somehow connected and related, which is really cool to see in the gardens. And then right here, you'll have the distribution or the nativity. So for this one, we have South Africa. These are also pretty variable, depending on one, how many countries you can find it in, but also how much we can actually fit on the sign. So most of this is usually pretty abbreviated, but it gives you a general idea of where it's native to. And then the most useful part for us in the gardens, for inventory purposes or for purposes in our plant database, is the 8-digit accession number listed at the very bottom. Sometimes you don't see these on the signs because they're also printed on the back sometimes, but what you'll see is the first 4 digits are a year. So for this example, it's 2017, which means that this plant was either purchased, planted, or accessioned in the year 2017. So you know how old this plant is by that first number. You'll also see in the gardens, sometimes there's all 4 zeros or also a 1000 as an accession number. And the zeros mean that it was a Klein family original planting, so we don't actually have an exact year on when it was placed in the gardens. And then the number 1000 is for ones that we've accessioned into our plant database, but we can't figure out what year it was actually planted, but it was planted by Yew Dell Gardens. So those ones will eventually change. And then your last 4 digits, they don't mean a whole lot. The most important number, like I said, is that first one, but this one is 271. So this was the 271st plant to come onto the property or in an order or in a delivery that year in 2017. So it's like in what succession the plant arrived. So you can find lots of info on these signs, and it's super duper helpful, and we're working really hard to make sure all the plants do have signage in the gardens. It's a huge task, but the biggest perk is we can actually engrave these on site with our laser engraver, and I'm hoping to show you a little glimpse of that today. Alrighty, so this is our Excel sheet that we've pulled from IrisBG, our plant database. It includes all of the information that I showed you on the signage in the gardens and in the glasshouse. So you have the Latin name, common name, cultivar is separate because it's printed on a different line, family name, distribution, and the accession number. So now that I have this Excel sheet put together, we'll transfer it to our printing software, which will then communicate with our laser engraver to engrave the aluminum signage. So now that it's done engraving, we're going to go ahead and take it out of our engraver. And for this example in particular, this is a shrub that's in a bed that's not easily viewed with the stake sign. So we're actually going to go down to our maintenance shop and drill a hole in this and install it on the plant with wire.